the chains of iron and stars. The first thing I smelled when I woke up wasn't blood. It was oil. Thick, acrid, synthetic. Prison stench. The kind that seeps into your pores, clings to your hair, and never leaves. Then the sound followed. A metallic clang echoing endlessly in a vast chamber. Chains rattling. Somewhere in the dark, voices howled in languages I couldn't name. And when the light flickered on above me, I finally saw where I was. It wasn't a cell, not the kind Earth had. No bars, no stone walls. Instead, I stood in a hexagonal pit with electrified walls that shimmered faint blue, humming with energy. Dozens of eyes peered down from platforms above. Alien eyes. Slitted, compound, bulbous, glowing. I was on display. A gladiator's cage. My body still ached from sedation. I could feel the needle marks in my neck, the burn in my veins where they'd pumped me with tranquilizers. They must have thought I was just another conscript, another body for their blood sport. They were wrong. I spat on the ground, the taste of iron still in my mouth. Where the hell am I? I muttered, though I already knew the answer. Not Earth. Not even the solar system. The last thing I remembered was the ambush. Lights in the sky, the ship ripping gravity apart, the struggle that ended with me suffocating into darkness. Ducted, enslaved, dragged into the void. And now, I was entertainment. A voice thundered across the chamber, echoing in my skull as if the walls themselves were speaking. Prisoner 907X. Species. Human. The crowd above stirred, chittering and snarling in approval. I saw claws drumming against metal railings, mandibles clicking, tentacles twitching. Some leaned forward with sharp-toothed grins. Others simply adjusted their visors, scanning me with the detached interest of gamblers. Welcome to the Obsidian Pits. My stomach twisted. I'd heard rumors back on Earth, whispered in the darker corners of intelligence reports, talk of alien penal colonies scattered across the galaxy. But no one had lived long enough to confirm them. Your survival is not guaranteed. Your pain, however, is promised. The pit roared in response. I flexed my wrists, testing the weight of the manacles clamped tight around them. Heavy, but not unbreakable. I'd broken worse in Afghanistan, when they thought shackles could hold me after capture. The aliens didn't know what they'd brought into their arena. I wasn't just a prisoner. I was a soldier. And soldiers don't die quietly. The doors across the pit opened with a hiss of steam, and my opponent stepped out. It wasn't what I expected. No towering beast, no armored juggernaut. Instead, it was lean. Too lean. Bones protruded beneath mottled gray skin, long limbs twitching with a predatory rhythm. Its eyes were sunken black pits, unblinking. It dragged a jagged blade behind it, metal screeching against the arena floor. The crowd screamed with delight, some pounding their fists on the railings, others shrieking words I couldn't understand. The announcer's voice boomed again. Prisoner 907X versus the Carcass Eater. Round 1. Fight. The creature lunged before the last syllable faded. I rolled to the side, instinct driving me before my brain could catch up. The blade whistled past my ear, embedding in the electrified wall with a snap of sparks. The smell of ozone filled the air. Too fast, too strong, but not invincible. I grabbed a length of broken chain from the ground. Must have been left behind from a previous fight. My wrists screamed from the manacle's weight, but I swung the chain like I'd swung batons back in training. The steel cracked against the creature's arm, and it hissed, jerking back with unnatural speed. The crowd jeered. Some laughed. To them, I was prey stalling its death. But I'd studied enough predators to know, the more they underestimated you, the closer you were to victory. The Carcass Eater circled me, blade scraping across the ground, black eyes unblinking, his head cocked sideways, as if confused I was still breathing. Then it rushed again, straight at me. I didn't dodge this time. I stepped forward. The blade came down, fast and brutal, but I angled the chain up. The steel wrapped around its wrist, the jagged edge missing my skull by inches. I twisted, leveraging my full weight, and the alien shrieked as its arm wrenched sideways with a wet pop. Its blade clattered to the floor. The crowd erupted, some booing, others howling with new excitement. Bets were being shouted, limbs waved in frenzy. I didn't have time to think about them. I had time only to finish. I wrapped the chain around its neck and pulled. Hard. The carcass eater clawed at me with skeletal fingers, its nails raking bloody lines across my arms. But I didn't let go. My muscles burned, my lungs screamed, but I kept pulling until it went limp. The alien hit the floor with a dull thud. Silence. For one breath, the entire pit was quiet. And then chaos. The aliens above went wild. Some in outrage, others in euphoric disbelief. I'd done the impossible. A human had survived the first fight. The announcer's voice boomed again, this time louder than before. Prisoner 907X, Victor. They dragged the body out of the pit and left me standing there, chest heaving, chain still clutched in my hand. I spat blood and wiped sweat from my brow. My arm stung, but the pain didn't matter. What mattered was simple. I was still alive. Alive in a place where survival wasn't meant to exist. The walls flickered as the energy field lowered, and a pair of massive guards stomped into the arena. They weren't like the others. These were armored, plated in black carapace, each carrying shock staffs that crackled with voltage. They motioned for me to move. I thought about fighting, about testing if I could break them like I'd broken their pet monster. But then I saw the dozens more lining the walkways above, weapons humming with lethal energy. Not now. Not yet. I let them shackle me again. Heavier this time, chains digging into my wrists. They dragged me through corridors of steel and alien script, past barred windows that looked out into endless stars. My legs ached, but my mind burned with a single thought. This wasn't just a prison. It was a machine, a spectacle, a galactic coliseum where the damned were fed to the slaughter for alien amusement. And I was their newest attraction. When they finally threw me into my cell, I hit the floor hard. Metal grates bit into my skin. The door slammed shut with a hiss, the energy barrier shimmering back to life. I lay there for a moment, chest rising and falling, sweat dripping into my eyes. The cell was small, just enough for a slab of metal to serve as a bed. Across from me, another prisoner stirred in the shadows. It wasn't human. Its skin was scaled, its eyes glowing faint green. It studied me for a long moment before speaking in halting words, its voice dry and guttural. "You should not be alive." I sat up slowly, blood still on my hands. "Yeah," I muttered, cracking a grim smile. "That makes two of us." The alien tilted its head. "You fight like no other species. You are dangerous. Dangerous." The word echoed in my head. I wasn't just a prisoner anymore. I was something else. Something the guards didn't yet realize. Something the crowd had only glimpsed. I was human, and in this prison of stars and steel, that made me the deadliest gladiator they'd ever see. Blood in the sand. The horn blared through the prison walls, a low metallic roar that shook the steel corridors. It wasn't a call to eat or to sleep. No, this sound meant only one thing. The arena was calling. I rose from the thin metal bench in my cell, my hands already curling into fists. I had only been here for 2 days, but the rules had been made clear. When the horn sounded, you fought. Refuse and the guards, those insectoid bastards with their glassy black eyes, dragged you in anyway, half dead, so the crowd had a warm-up act. The crowd didn't care if you stood willingly or stumbled. They just wanted blood. The cell door slid open with a hiss. I stepped out, the other prisoners already filing into line. Some bore scars and burns, trophies of battles survived. Others, wide-eyed newcomers like me, had faces drawn pale with dread. Most wouldn't last the day. We were herded like cattle, pushed down a long metallic corridor by the guards, their spear-like shock batons sparking with warning hums. The air smelled of ozone, rust, and fear. My stomach churned, but I kept my face blank. In prison, weakness was the fastest way to die. We emerged into the preparation chamber. A dim, cavernous space lit by cold blue lights. Weapons lined the walls. Nothing advanced. Nothing more dangerous than swords, axes, hammers, and jagged spears. Tools for butchery, not precision. A booming voice echoed above us, metallic and laced with cruelty. New blood for the sand. New flesh for the crowd. The prison warden's voice. He was a massive, four-armed reptilian thing named Grath, scales like black iron, a jaw lined with teeth sharp enough to shear bone. He never showed his face in person, only his hologram flickering above the weapon racks. His glowing yellow eyes scanned us, savoring the terror in our stares. My fists clenched. I didn't know who had thrown me into this nightmare prison, but I had sworn I wouldn't break. Not here. Not now. Choose your weapon, Grath commanded, and pray it carries your soul intact to whatever gods you believe in. The line surged forward. Prisoners scrambled, some clawing at each other for the sharper blades. A brawl broke out instantly over a steel mace. One of the insectoid guards slammed its baton into the loser's chest, dropping him twitching and unconscious. The victor took the mace, grinning through bloody teeth. When it was my turn, I scanned the wall. Swords gleamed in the cold light, but too many prisoners already had them. Spears gave reach, but I didn't trust my footing yet. My eyes caught on a short-handled weapon. A brutal, curved hatchet, heavy at the head. A tool, not just a weapon. Something familiar, something I could wield with precision. I grabbed it, the weight settling into my palm like an extension of my arm. The guards shoved us into a wide archway. Beyond it, I could already hear the roars of the crowd, thousands of alien voices, shrieking and howling, hungry for blood sport. The gate rattled. Then it opened. Blinding light hit us. The arena. It was vast, a colossal pit of sand ringed by towering walls, lined with cages and balconies where spectators leaned forward, their eyes glowing in different shades and shapes. Some threw coins, some jeered, some chanted. Above all of them, in a gilded platform, sat the warden himself, Grath, his four arms spread wide as if he held the entire arena in his grasp. "Begin the trials," he roared. The first match was not mine. We were corralled to the side as the initial group was shoved forward. I watched. I had to. 5 prisoners stumbled into the sand. They barely had time to raise their weapons before the floor opened and beasts emerged. Creatures unlike anything I had ever seen. Massive reptilian hounds, jaws dripping with saliva, claws that could shred stone. Their spines glowed faintly, pulsing with bioluminescence. The prisoners panicked. 2 ran. They didn't make it 10 steps before the hounds pounced, jaws clamping down with sickening crunches. The others screamed, swinging wildly, hacking into the beasts. One landed a good strike. His spear pierced through the throat of a hound, black ichor spraying across the sand. The crowd roared approval. The survivor didn't last long. Another beast came from behind and dragged him down, tearing him apart piece by piece. The sand turned dark with blood. The audience roared louder. I felt my stomach tighten. This wasn't just fighting other inmates. This was survival against nightmares designed to kill. The horn sounded again. The guards pointed at me and 3 others. Our turn. I stepped forward, the hatchet in my hand, my mouth dry as bone. The gate shut behind us. The silence in that brief moment felt louder than the roars. My heart pounded. Then the ground opened. From the pit rose a figure, not a beast this time. A prisoner. But he wasn't like the rest. He was huge, nearly 7 feet tall, his muscles corded with scars. His skin was pale blue, his eyes sharp and predatory. He carried a massive spiked chain, and when his gaze locked on us, I felt the weight of someone who had done this before. A gladiator. A veteran. The crowd screamed his name. Vorash! Vorash! I realized the cruelty of the prison. We weren't fighting only the beasts. We were the fodder for their champions. The crowd loved watching new blood get crushed by old monsters. Vorash swung his chain once, the spikes whistling through the air. One of the prisoners beside me panicked and charged. He barely made it 3 steps before the chain lashed out, wrapping around his torso. With a single tug, Vorash ripped the man off his feet and slammed him into the sand hard enough to snap bones. The other prisoner turned and tried to run. A mistake. The gate behind us had already closed. There was nowhere to run. Vorash's chain lashed again. the spikes digging into the runner's back. Screams filled the air. That left me and the last prisoner, a small, wiry alien with dark gray skin and 4 eyes. He held a dagger in each hand, his gaze flicking to me, then to Vorash. No alliance, no words, just survival. Vorash roared, charging forward. The sand trembled under his feet. I didn't wait. I darted left, the hatchet tight in my grip. The 4-eyed prisoner leaped right, knives flashing. Vorash's chain lashed between us, tearing up the sand where I'd stood a heartbeat before. The alien fighter lunged at Vorash, stabbing at his side. The chain snapped out, striking him mid-leap. He crumpled, blood spraying across the sand. It was just me now. Vorash turned, grinning wide. He twirled his chain, the spikes singing death through the air. My mind raced. I couldn't match his strength. But I didn't need to. As he swung again, I dropped low, rolling under the chain. The spikes whistled just above my head. Sand filled my mouth, but I didn't stop. I lunged forward, hatchet raised, and swung at his legs. The blade bit into his thigh, deep enough to spray dark blood. Vorash roared, staggering. The crowd erupted in cheers. But it wasn't over. He yanked the chain back, the spike grazing my shoulder, hot pain blooming as it tore skin. I barely avoided the full strike. Vorash loomed over me, eyes burning with fury, and for the first time since I'd been thrown into this nightmare prison, I smiled. I wasn't prey. Not anymore. I was going to survive. I was going to win. The arena of silence. The alarms blared again the next cycle, that same piercing howl that cut through my skull and rattled the metal walls of my cell. I woke to the vibration of boots in the corridors, the guttural commands of wardens echoing in a language I didn't understand, but could always feel. They barked like predators, not speaking but striking. My ribs still ached from the last fight. The medics hadn't bothered to patch me up. They weren't medics so much as butchers deciding which parts of me needed to keep working to give the crowd a good show. My knuckles were swollen, my breath ragged, but my heart, still beating in that strange, stubborn rhythm, kept telling me the same thing. You're still here. Keep standing. The door hissed open. 2 guards stepped in, towering creatures with chitin armor fused to their flesh. Their spears buzzed with low-energy pulses. I'd seen what happened when those tips made contact. Paralyzing shocks that could leave a man writhing like a worm on hot sand. One of them gestured. I knew the motion by now. Move. I shuffled forward, shackles biting my wrists, chains clinking as if mocking me. Every prisoner's march sounded the same, a chorus of broken wills. But I refused to let mine match theirs. Kept my chin high. I made sure my eyes never looked away. That always seemed to bother them. As they dragged me into the transit hall, I noticed the line of others awaiting their fate. Some were reptilian, scales gleaming under the pale lights. Others were grotesque hybrids of fur, tusks, and too many teeth. All silent, all beaten. But when their eyes turned toward me, there was something else. Hesitation. Unease. I was the only human here, and I was still alive. They threw us into holding cages near the arena gate. The sound beyond was muffled but unmistakable. Thousands of alien throats roaring in anticipation. It was a sound that carried hunger. Beside me, a 4-armed brute with skin like cracked stone muttered something in its tongue. It pointed at me with 2 hands, then crossed the other 2 against its chest. A symbol. Respect, maybe, or mourning. I leaned against the bars, forcing my voice out. What is it this time? Another beast? Or one of you poor bastards they've lined up to die beside me? The brute stared at me, eyes narrowing. Then, in halting, guttural words, it spoke in something close to my language. Arena, today silence. I frowned. Silence? The crowd outside was anything but silent. But the way he said it made my stomach tighten. The gates shuddered open. Light spilled in, blinding, searing against the cold gloom of the cages. One by one, the guards prodded us out. We stepped into the arena of silence. The ground was black sand, scorched and littered with bones. The stands towered above, stacked with every manner of alien life, their faces twisted in excitement. Yet the strangest thing was the air itself. The sound of the crowd cut off suddenly, as if someone had thrown a switch. Their mouths moved, their bodies swayed, but no sound reached us. It was like fighting inside a vacuum of silence. And then I understood the cruelty. Out here, every scream, every cry, every desperate plea would vanish unheard. The crowd saw, the fighters suffered. But the noise? Gone. I glanced at the others forced into the ring with me. 7 of us in total. None human. All armed with crude blades or jagged sticks. My own weapon was tossed at my feet. A short spear with a cracked shaft. I picked it up, rolling it in my hands. Lighter than I liked. Weak in the middle. It would snap if I struck too hard. Typical. The center of the arena opened. A circular hatch widened, and from the darkness below came a hiss. A smell, acrid and sharp, rose with it. Then came the thing. It slithered up first, long and coiled, scales wet and glistening with some kind of slime. His body filled the pit, thick as a tree trunk. When its head emerged, it was all fangs and eyes. Too many eyes, glimmering in different directions. The crowd's silent cheer rippled like a wave. I tightened my grip on the spear. The others scattered instantly, fear overwhelming them. One lizard-like prisoner darted left. The beast struck, faster than lightning, and the alien disappeared into its maw, swallowed whole in a single sickening motion. 6 left. The silence was maddening. No cries, no impact of claws against sand. Not even the hiss of the serpent's breath. Just the sound of my own heartbeat in my skull. I forced my mind to focus. It's big. But big means slow in the right places. Find the weakness. Every predator has one. Another fighter lunged at the beast, blades flashing. The serpent coiled, whipping its massive body around, and I saw him vanish beneath the crushing weight. Bones snapped, but again no sound. Only silence. 5 left. The stone-skinned brute met my gaze across the arena. For a moment, something passed between us. An understanding. He charged, arms raised, slamming his weapon into the serpent's side. The blow didn't pierce, but it made the creature flinch. That was all I needed. I sprinted forward, spear low, aiming for its underside. At the last second, I ducked beneath its lunge, the world blurring as rows of teeth snapped where my head had been. My spear struck, but the cracked shaft betrayed me. It splintered, leaving only the jagged point stuck shallow in the beast's flesh. Not deep enough. The serpent screamed, at least I imagined it did. Its mouth opened wide, fangs glistening, eyes locking on me. It struck, but the brute intercepted, wrapping 2 of his massive arms around its head, forcing it back with sheer strength. The creature thrashed, dragging him off his feet, but he held long enough for me to move. I grabbed the broken spearhead, yanking it free, then drove it upward with all the force left in me. Right through one of its many eyes. This time it worked. The beast reeled, coils flailing, body convulsing. I scrambled back, chest heaving. The brute fell too, crushed beneath a sweep of its tail. When the serpent writhed for the final time, twitching before collapsing in silence, I stood over it. The sand beneath my feet was hot, sticky with alien ichor. My chest heaved, my body broken and bleeding, but I was alive. The crowd above went wild silently. They dragged us back to the cages, the survivors, only 2 of us now. Me and the brute barely breathing but still alive. As the guards shoved me into my cell, I caught one of them staring at me longer than usual. His mandibles clicked, a sound like grinding stone. For the first time, I saw something in its alien eyes I hadn't before. Not hatred, not contempt, fear. And I realized something. The arena wasn't just for their entertainment. It was a test, a constant measurement of who could break, who could bend, who could endure. And I wasn't breaking. Not yet. Not ever. The last arena. The arena was not silent. It never had been. But tonight, its noise was different. It wasn't just the usual chants for blood or the usual roars for spectacle. It was a current in the air, a raw electricity that rattled through the bones of every prisoner, every alien spectator, and every guard. They knew something had changed. I stood at the center of the sandpit, the scars of my past matches still burning across my chest, the taste of iron still heavy in my mouth. Around me, the Colosseum stretched in impossible size, tier upon tier of alien forms pressed tight together, their eyes glinting like cold gems. This was supposed to be the final match. For me. For Earth. Prisoner 788. The announcer's voice boomed, his words laced with the oily confidence of someone who thought he was in control. The human. The crowd erupted in guttural cheers and hisses. Some shouted for my death. Others for my victory. But there was a difference this time. Too many voices cried for me. They had seen me break their champions. They had seen me stand when others fell. They had seen something in me they couldn't quite understand. Hope. The monster in chains. The gates across the arena rumbled open. What emerged was not a gladiator. It was a monster. 10 feet tall, armored in plates of bone and steel, for arms tipped with hooked blades that gleamed in the pale light. Its breath hissed like steam from a broken vent. The crowd howled with anticipation. The warden's prize. The beast of Vale. No one had lasted more than 3 minutes against it. My hands clenched around the crude blade they'd given me. Its edge notched. Its balance terrible. A weapon meant for show, not survival. They wanted blood. They wanted fear. I gave them neither. The beast bellowed, rushing forward, its claws cutting through the air like scythes. The ground shook with its weight. I didn't meet it head-on. Couldn't. Instead, I slipped to the side, my body moving on instinct. The first strike tore a furrow into the sand where I'd been. The second grazed my ribs, hot pain tearing through me. But I stayed standing. The crowd gasped. Not at the wound, at the fact that I hadn't fallen. That I wouldn't. The prisoners rise. From the lower cells carved into the arena's stone, I could see faces pressed against the bars. Prisoners of every shape and kind, eyes wide, fists beating against the cages. They were chanting, not for the beast, not for the warden. For me. Who man? Who man? Who man? Their voices were hoarse, desperate, defiant. It wasn't just a chant. It was rebellion. The beast struck again, forcing me to roll across the sand, my blade skittering out of reach. The shadow loomed, claws raised to end it all. And then, something snapped. Not in me. In them. A prisoner hurled a piece of debris into the arena. Another forced open a gate lock, alarms screaming as doors buckled under sudden, furious strength. Chaos spread through the stands as guards rushed to contain it. The match was no longer entertainment. It was war. The warden's fury. High above, in his private box, the warden stood. His jeweled robes glowed under the arena lights, his face twisted in rage. He slammed a clawed fist against the railing, his voice magnified across the Colosseum. Contain the human. Kill him. Kill them all. But the guards couldn't. The prisoners had tasted something far more dangerous than victory. They had tasted the idea that one man, one human, could defy the system and win. The beast roared, striking at me again. But I had learned its rhythm. I darted past its swing, seized my blade, and drove it deep into the seam of its armored chest. Hot ichor sprayed across the sand. The beast staggered, bellowing in fury. Its claws lashed out, raking my shoulder, sending blood down my arm. But it was too late. I twisted the blade, ripping upward until the monster crashed to its knees. His eyes went dim. The arena fell silent for a breathless moment. Then it erupted. Fire in the arena. The crowd was no longer watching, they were scattering. Fire spread from torches knocked loose in the chaos. The smoke curled into the night sky, mixing with the sound of screams and the clash of steel. The prisoners surged into the arena, weapons stolen from guards, chains turned into whips and maces. They weren't fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for freedom. I stood among them, bloodied but unbroken, my chest heaving with every breath. One prisoner, a reptilian giant with scales like armor, shoved a weapon into my hands. A real one this time, a curved blade that gleamed with alien steel. You lead, he hissed. We follow. I looked around at the faces staring at me. some scarred, some young, some so worn they barely resembled what they once were. All of them waiting, not for orders, for hope. I raised the blade high, the firelight catching on its edge. Then we break our chains tonight. I roared, and they roared with me. The last stand. The warden's guards poured into the arena in formation, shields raised, weapons crackling with plasma. They expected panic. They expected us to scatter. But humans don't scatter. We charge. The sand turned red as the two forces collided. I fought at the front, my blade cutting through alien armor, my fist striking with bone-breaking force when the blade failed. Every wound slowed me, but every step forward brought us closer to the warden's tower. The prisoners fought like demons unleashed, each one knowing death was certain but freedom was worth the cost. We carved our way through them, one body at a time, until the tower loomed above us. The warden stood there, his jeweled robes stained with ash, his eyes burning with fury and fear. "You think you can escape?" he snarled, voice shaking. "You are nothing but animals in a cage." I staggered forward, every muscle screaming, every breath like fire. "No," I said, my voice carrying through the chaos. "We are humans, and we don't die in cages. Freedom." The last clash was brutal. The warden fought with blades hidden in his robes, striking with precision, with rage. But he wasn't ready for me. He wasn't ready for the man who had endured every fight, every wound, every humiliation. I drove the blade through him, pinning him against the wall of his tower. His eyes widened in disbelief. The crowd, what was left of it, fell silent. Then, slowly, the chant began again. "Human, human, human." The gates of the prison were thrown open, and for the first time in years, the stars stretched above us like a promise. We walked out together, not slaves, not prisoners, gladiators no longer, survivors, free.